coming up tonight on News 7.
And a community event has been brought back for Halloween, but the story behind it is so much more.
Drivers will still be revving their engines in May, but not in Bradford.
What is it like to be in the shoes of local law enforcement? Ride along with a local officer to find out. This is News 7 at 5:30.
Live from the Vermont Center for Community Journalism, this is News 7 at 5:30.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Taylor Young.
And I'm Nick Oresco. This evening, Lyndonville is getting ready for Halloween. News 7 reporter Katrina Florenza is joining us live from Pearson's funeral home, where pumpkins are being lit not only for Halloween, but also for another reason. Katrina?
Thanks, guys. The Pumpkin Showcase was a huge tradition for the town of Lyndonville for almost 25 years. It was held right here at the Pearson's funeral home by the Pearsons family. And after the loss of Don Pearson, the tradition came to a stop. It's been roughly 10 years since any pumpkin has been lit at the funeral home, and tonight current director Brian Martin has decided to bring back the pumpkin lighting in memory of Don Pearson. Pearson started the tradition with a local flower shop 20 years ago and felt that beginning this tradition would provide a night of safety and fun for families and children, as well as dismiss the spooky image associated with funeral homes. And you can also experience the pumpkin lighting tomorrow night because the showcase will also happen, continuing the tradition for Don Pearson's birthday. Reporting for the Vermont Center for Community Journalism, I'm Katrina Florenza in Lyndonville.
Thank you, Katrina. Can't believe Halloween is already here. And elections are just 5 days away now. Governor Peter Shumlin, amongst other candidates, have made it clear that the economic state of Vermont needs to be addressed. Shumlin praised the federal funding for bringing broadband internet to every home has been successful thus far. On the other hand, the governor also acknowledged the fact that middle-class Vermonters are frustrated that they haven't seen a significant wage growth coming out of the recession. One of Shumlin's biggest concerns revolves around health care.
The biggest threat to job growth is the rising cost of health care. I mentioned that we're spending 20 cents of every dollar on health care. If health care costs grow for this decade at the same rate that they did last decade, that number doubles. So that's why I'm so intent on getting this right, on a universal health care system where we contain cost, reduce costs for business, reduce costs for Vermonters with better outcomes.
And Republican Scott Milne thinks tax incentives could help some of the economic problems Vermont is facing. One key issue is that Milne thinks Vermont needs to be resolved is state spending and the fact that the state budget is growing faster than the economy itself. Milne went on to say that current tax system the state has in place is too confusing. It lacks accountability and isn't tracked well enough.
But I think with the Scott Milne administration, businesses will realize that doors opened, let's give Vermont a try. We need to come up with some sort of shots in the arm. We've got a very stagnant economy, as you pointed out, Stuart. Average household incomes are down, unemployment rate's gone up by 0.4% in the last month. We need to do some tax incentives to stimulate business.
Libertarian Dan Feliciano has his own plan set in place for the greater good of Vermont's economy. Feliciano believes the state should phase out tax credits completely and let the free market stimulate business. The Libertarian believes a better tax structure would lure more businesses to the state. Among with potential tax cuts, Feliciano wants to find a way to cut the state's spending.
What we need to do is start cutting spending. If we start cutting spending, we can start reducing our taxes, and that'll give businesses an incentive to grow. We need to reduce some of the, we need to ease some of the Act 250 legislation, which creates a stifling effect where businesses can't grow and subsequently can't hire employees.
Polls will open Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. and will continue to stay open throughout the day.
And Lieutenant Governor candidate Phil Scott will be making a day trip throughout Vermont to interact with potential voters. Scott will be traveling with his campaign party and will make 14 stops along the way. The party will be leaving for Montpelier at 5 a.m. on Monday, November 3rd, with its first stop in Morrisville at 5:40 a.m. His last stop will be in St. Alsvin at 6 p.m.
The ongoing Fairpoint strikes are nearing the end of their second week, and close to 2,000 Fairpoint workers are still unemployed. The building's sense of urgency has Representative Peter Welch writing a letter to the CEO of Fairpoint, Paul Sunu, and here's what he had to say. Mr. Sunu, your employees are struggling, anxious about their futures, but the resolute is their insistence of fair treatment. I strongly urge you to return to the bargaining table in good faith and find common ground. With the working men and women of your company, ending this dispute promptly is the right thing for them to do, their families, your customers, and their shareholders. If there are any further updates regarding the strikes, News 7 will bring you the very latest.
The biannual Vermonster 4x4 is taking its fun to a new location. For the past 9 years, the Vermonster has created an image on the national scale through winning awards, being featured in magazines, and much more. Coordinator Randy Oakley said the main reason for relocation is simply politics. On the Vermonster website, Oakley stated, "When the people who ultimately control your rules, permits, and pricing are volunteers who have not invested enough in your business or haven't even attended your event continuously, present unnecessary obstacles is mentally, physically, and financially draining. The over-enforcement of a family-friendly venue is also very troublesome." The owner and coordinator went on to say he has learned from everything he's encountered over the past 5 years and plans to rebuild and enhance the event.
Tonight on News 7.
Bruce Bona was back in court today.
Danville is holding strong to a community event that incorporates Vermont's traditions.
And find out how one local bazaar is different from all the others you may have been to. News 7 starts right now.
Live from the Vermont Center for Community Journalism, this is News 7 at 5:30.
Day 2 of the Bruce Bona trial started this morning by finishing up the defense and then wrapping up closing arguments. Good evening, I'm Taylor Young.
And I'm Nick Oresco. Bona was being accused of animal cruelty charges, and now the verdict is in. News 7's Alex Farnworth reports.
Guilty. Bruce Bona is being charged on 17 counts of animal cruelty against horses from his farm.
There were sick horses, but I had administered to them.
Bona represented himself in the trial, but did not take the stand to testify, resulting in failure to convince the jury through evidence that the accusations were false.
I wanted to represent myself because I didn't want to sit there while someone else used words that weren't mine. I wanted you to hear my words.
The prosecution showcased pictures taken on March 1st of the horses from Bona's ranch in order to provide evidence that these horses were deprived of adequate food and water.
The state's evidence has shown through Dr. Craig Shannon's testimony, Pat Mitchell's testimony, Deborah Loring's testimony, Adam Bergeron's testimony, and Sidney Katie's testimony that those 21 horses, not only on March 1st, 2014, but in the weeks leading up to it, were emaciated and were dehydrated.
After nearly 4.5 hours of deliberations, the jury was able to find Bona innocent on just 4 counts, leaving him guilty on 17 out of the 21. Reporting for the Vermont Center for Community Journalism, I'm Alex Farnworth in St. Johnsbury.
Bona's sentencing will come at a later date, and he has the option to appeal the ruling.
A top Vermont healthcare official says the state will continue to pay for the people assisting Jonathan Gruber. But Gruber will not receive any additional money from the state for his work. Vermont has paid Gruber's team $160,000 of the $400,000 originally planned. Gruber has recently come under fire for his comments on saying the lack of public understanding helped pass a reform.
You get a law which said healthy people are going to pay in. It made explicit that healthy people pay in and sick people get money. It would not have passed. Okay, just like the lack of transparency is a huge political advantage, and basically, call it the stupidity of the American voter or whatever. But basically, that was really, really critical to get anything to pass.
Health Reform Director Lawrence Miller says the state will pay about $1,000 for the work of Gruber's deputies. The full deal calls for $50,000 to go to a subcontractor.
Entergy said it will be laying off 165 employees on January 19th. The company announced the shutdown of Vermont Yankee back in August and plans on letting employees go as the plant starts to cool down. After the cool down, the company will begin decommissioning the plant. The law states that Entergy will have to provide the employees with a 60-day notice.
The Ethan Allen Furniture Store in Orleans is now experiencing a temporary shutdown. Approximately 350 employees are not on salary, have been informed they will not be working until the Monday after Thanksgiving. The shutdown is in the effort to let businesses build up before the Christmas season. And now Josh Synchronelli joins us with the first look at our forecast. Josh, how's tonight's weather looking?
Well, Taylor, I do have some snow in the forecast for this evening. Much of the North Country saw on and off snow shower activity throughout the day today, and I expect those snow showers to continue into the night. Here's your forecast for tonight. You can see snow shower activity through 1 a.m. Those snow showers will continue into the early morning hours. Low temperatures dropping into the middle teens, and you can see on the Doppler radar, the snow machine's still going off of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. Those bands off of Lake Ontario are actually making their way into the North Country. You can see as we zoom into our region, you can see snow showers not making it under the radar beam, but those snow showers will continue as we go through this evening. Now, temperatures around the region, they're pretty frigid, and that's going to be the story as we go through tonight into tomorrow. See temperatures 29 in Albany, 32 in Lebanon. For the North Country, you can see we're sitting at 31 in St. Johnsbury, 26 in Lyndonville, and 24 to our north in Newport. This cold weather will change. I'll have details on that coming up.
Thanks a lot, Josh.
Sexting has become a problem around America, but it is also a problem here in the Northeast Kingdom.
And the Santa Fund is looking for donations. How can you help? Find out after the break.
Coming up tonight on News 7.
Drivers passing through Lyndonville have been hitting a rough patch.
As the state struggles with the idea of universal pre-K, one local town has voted in favor of it.
And over 30,000 Vermont residents are in the dark this evening as snow continues to fall. I'll let you know if you can expect more outages tonight. News 7 starts right now.
Live from the Vermont Center for Community Journalism, this is News 7 at 5:30.
After requesting a delay in his sentencing, the judge has denied the request made by Alan Prue. Good evening, I'm Taylor Young.
And I'm Nick Oresco. Prue had asked the judge to delay his sentencing until next year after his wife's trial. Patricia Prue was also charged in the murder case of 32-year-old Melissa Jenkins. Her trial is set to start in March. Alan Prue's sentencing is scheduled for December 17th. Judge Robert Bent says he will be willing to extend it further than 1 day if Alan Prue's lawyer chooses to call Patricia Prue's psychiatrist to testify about his evaluation of her that wasn't allowed in his trial.
A report of a missing woman has sadly taken a turn for the worst. In Iversburg, 71-year-old Patricia Little was found dead Wednesday evening in a field between her home and a neighbor's. On Monday, her husband, Stuart Little, fell getting out of his car, and Patricia sought help but never returned. The state police, the Iversburg Fire Department, and the K-9 unit assisted the search. There is no sign of foul play.
With the construction of the railroad crossings on Broad Street in Linden, drivers are reporting blown tires and bent wheels. This was all part of a paving project that was supposed to be finished by last summer. However, there was a back order on the rail, which delayed the process. They plan to finish the project next year. They also plan to fix the existing potholes in the next coming days. So far, VTrans in St. Johnsbury has received a couple of complaints.
We've got a few that have come in. What we're telling everybody is that they need to write down the information that we need. It's the who, what, where, when, and how. Tell us who they are, what they're driving, when it happened, where they were, stuff like that, what kind of car they're driving, what was damaged. They send it to us. We forward it. The state is self-insured, so we send it to our risk management division. They will then in turn get hold of that motorist and ask him a bunch of questions, and it'll be up to their decision whether or not they'll honor that claim or not.
Now, if you have any questions regarding this issue, you can contact the AOT office at 802-748-6670.
Ever since Fairpoint Communications hired out-of-state workers, they've seen an increase in service outages, including phone lines not working for emergency responders. Mishaps wiped out both internet and phone services throughout Vermont and New Hampshire. Glenn Brackett, business manager of IBEW Local 2320, said the executives back in North Carolina don't have to live with the chaos they've caused by attacking their skilled workers here in New England.
Senator Bernie Sanders has voted no on a bill to upgrade the Department of Defense's military budget. Sanders said he voted no because he has very serious concerns about our nation's bloated military budget. The vote, however, was passed in favor of the budget by a count of 85-14.
And a little bit of good news for those trying to afford or rent a house. The Federal Housing Finance Agency announced today that the suspension of contributions to funds designed to allow renters to find homes at reasonable prices has ended. This means the new home could free up hundreds of millions of dollars to expand affordable renting housing nationwide. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders is a national leader in this effort and believes it will lead to changes, saying the trust fund will provide resources to build the affordable housing we desperately need and create thousands of good-paying jobs. State and local agencies can apply for the money and use it to finance very low-income rental housing and construction of rehabilitation projects.
$7.3 million in federal grant money has been awarded to the Vermont to fund pre-kindergarten programs throughout the state. But the decision to mandate universal pre-K has been pushed back until July 1st of 2016. News 7's Cortland Hannity has the story.
I do think that there's lots of evidence that this will be good for our children.
The state mandate to implement universal pre-K has been moved back a year. Schools now have the option to put it into effect starting next fiscal year.
Their reasons for postponing was really not feeling that communities were going to be able to be ready.
However, the St. Johnsbury community was ready.
Because we have a strong collaborative in our community for early education, I think we're unusual in that daycare centers and schools don't sit down together all through the state the way they have been here.
The St. J. School Board voted 4-1 in favor of starting next fiscal year. Bruce Corrett opposed.
Until they've settled down and get this thing set up right. They passed a law which they now figure that they don't know what they're doing. They're not going to know until maybe June.
Many at last night's special meeting were ready to move forward, including Judy Pransky of Cherry Street Childcare.
Because it reduced the need for special education in children entering schools when they weren't prepared. They weren't prepared, but it wasn't because they were special needs kids. They were kids who hadn't been exposed to experiences that they needed to be exposed to.
Having students in the classrooms 10 hours a week is a good start.
Our biggest behavioral issues are in K-1-2. So again, it's kids who come in and they're not ready to be in a structured environment 6 hours a day. They can't handle it.
We believe that proceeding with universal pre-K this year will strengthen our image as a model community with a strong commitment to our children and their families.
Reporting for the Vermont Center for Community Journalism, I'm Cortland Hanley in St. Johnsbury.
Plans call for 6 child care centers and 2 home-based daycares to provide universal pre-K. And now Josh Sigrinelli joins us with a first look at our forecast. Josh, is there any more snow in the forecast?
Well, Nick, snow is in the forecast until Saturday. Fortunately, the snow that falls from here on out will be more of a fluffy consistency. Therefore, the power outage threat is lower for tonight. If you're heading out to dinner or to do some holiday shopping this evening, you can expect snow showers to progress through the evening, temperatures dropping below freezing. Now, when temperatures drop into the 20s, roads are likely to become snow-covered. You can see on satellite and radar, low-pressure system set up over New England, stalled over our area, counterclockwise rotation. That's why we have these snow showers ushering in from the east. You can see more snow shower activity off into areas of northern New Hampshire, and those will move in later tonight. Temperatures around the region, mostly in the lower 30s, 32 in Burlington, 31 in Albany, a little warmer down towards New York City, 37, and cooler up towards upstate New York. Temperatures up here generally in the lower 30s. I'll have details on when the snow will end coming up. Nick, back to you.
Thank you for that, Josh. And Vermont is still feeling the effects of the nor'easter that pushed through the state the last few days. Both Washington Electric and Green Mountain Power are reporting that outages are on the rise. As of this morning, Vermont still has over 32,000 customers without power. Green Mountain Power alone has reported an increase of 15,000 outages from last night until this morning. It could be as long as 3 days until power is restored. Green Mountain Power also says it could be longer until power is restored if the number of outages continues to go up.
Governor Peter Shumlin, along with emergency state officials and utility companies, are urging you to take the proper precautions with the latest round of winter weather. With utility crews working around the clock, the governor wants you to be prepared for days without power, saying while crews are working as fast as possible to get the lights on, it's going to take some time. We're keeping a close eye on the situation, and the state will provide any assistance necessary to help Vermonters affected by the storm. If you want an update on when power will return to your neighborhood, call Green Mountain Power at 1-888-835-4672. And for all of the drivers out there, the Vermont State Police would like to remind you of a few laws that need to be remembered when it starts to snow. Motorists must remove all snow and ice from their roof, windshields, and license plate before driving. Any snow that comes off of the moving vehicle can be a hazard for other drivers. Not following these laws can result in high ticket prices.